Hey dog lovers! Today we're diving into the world of dog temperament testing. You know, that thing shelters do to figure out if our future fur buddies are a match made in heaven, and daycares do to see if our dog can get along with the staff and other dogs. We're about to find out just how reliable these tests really are. Hint, they're So, I went digging into some studies and position statements that were also based on research, and boy, did I discover some eye-opening stuff. Let's kick things off with a study by Petronik et al. Titled, "What is the evidence for reliability and validity of behavior evaluations for shelter dogs?" A prequel to No Better Than Flipping a Coin. They found that terms like validated, reliable, and predictive might not be used according to their actual scientific definition when used in different articles. That means that there are papers, even scientific papers, with confusing conclusions. Papers that found one thing but presented it in a way that is inaccurate. That's why I always say that although it is good to rely on science, you still shouldn't accept any single publication as the whole truth. You need to review it in a critical manner to make sure it is as accurate as possible. According to Petronik, these evaluations sometimes miss the mark on what they're actually measuring and how it affects a pup's life post-adoption. In their research, they spotted a mean false positive rate of 35.1% in some groups and a whopping 63.8% in regular shelter population. False positive means that they were found as positive to whatever is tested. For example, let's say found positive for aggression, even though they were not. That's why it's false. So basically, the test wasn't accurate. And that's basically like flipping a coin, so it has no real value. The next paper is by Christensen et al. It is titled Aggressive Behavior in Adopted Dogs That Passed a Temperament Test. Their findings? The test missed the mark on spotting certain kinds of aggression like territorial, predatory, and intraspecific aggression to other dogs. 40.9% exhibited lunging, growling, snapping, and/or biting after adoption. The ASPCA position statement also addresses this topic. Let me read you a little part from it, but as always, there are links to the studies and position statements in the video's description. So they write, unfortunately, even trained personnel may administer the assessment and interpret the dog's behavior inconsistently. Research studies have confirmed that incidents of food aggression on an assessment are not predictive of shelter's dog's behavior in the adoptive home. Another study established that using a fake dog as a substitute for a real dog to assess dog aggression in shelter dogs is not a valid indicator. There are even more examples of how dogs do well in the shelter and bad at home, and vice versa. Because of all of that information, and because of their understanding that dog behavior is a very complex interplay between different factors that can't all be measured or predicted, the ASPCA recommends that unless aggressive behavior during an assessment is egregious, shelters should consider it valid only if corroborated in another environment. And that makes a lot of sense. A dog in shelter is not the same as a dog in the house, for better or for worse. That's why sometimes fostering a dog is a good idea to see if he is the right match. The problem is, and yes, I have to complicate everything, is that it takes a dog a few months sometimes to show his real colors. So sometimes a dog will do great at the first month or two and then become territorial. The new adopters will relinquish him, which is sad and might have a negative effect on his behavior in the future. The last article is by Birch, which drops some wisdom with assessment of canine temperament, predictive or prescriptive. This one's about an alternative style of testing. Birch describes the American Kennel Club Temperament Test, which is the first prescriptive canine temperament test, which is like a helpful guide for pet owners. It shows you the areas where your body might need some extra coaching, instead of waving a good dog or a bad dog flag. This is how you get a head start on areas where the dog was more sensitive or had issues. Of course, that doesn't mean that he will be perfect in the areas where he did pass the assessment, or that he will be horrible in the problematic areas. But I do like that the goal is not to label the dog, but instead to help him be the best he can be for his adopters. So what's the takeaway? Well, doggy temperament tests are like those mystery novels. They give us hints, but the ending aren't always what we expect. False alarms, trouble with certain types of behavior, and the need for a helping hand approach remind us that dogs are complex creatures. Although there are different tests with different names, for example, the Canine Good Citizen test, which is very popular, they don't seem to really predict how the dog will do in different situations. So, might lead to dogs not being adopted or to other dogs being in environments or around triggers that make them dangerous to other people or dogs. Write me a comment and tell me what you think about these temperament tests. And like and subscribe if you want. Thanks, and watch this video too.